Donald Trump is panicking as the state visit from King Charles is over and Trump's efforts to distract from his catastrophic war in Iran have utterly failed. The American people are absolutely livid. Now, Donald Trump is blowing up at his own generals as he tasked his generals and intelligence officials to come up with a plan, I kid you not, for Donald Trump just to declare once and for all a unilateral victory, remove all of our aircraft carriers away from the Middle East and pretend like nothing had happened, and then just see if the world can kind of sort itself out. Would that work? How would Iran respond? To which Donald Trump's generals and intelligence officials said, "That's not going to work out, Donald. You have to make a decision here. Do you want to escalate and send ground troops in and actually go back to a hot war? Or do you want to negotiate with Iran, Donald? And that means you have to make concessions. What is your choice? But just pretending that you won the war is not a solution here." And then Donald Trump is like, "You know what I want to do? Let's just keep the naval blockade. And that's what we'll do. I won't say, unilateral victory. Just keep the blockade by the Persian Gulf and we will exert more pressure that way." And then our generals are like, "That's not going to work." And Donald Trump's like, "That is going to work. We're just going to leave the naval blockade." How long are you going to do that for, Donald? Forever. It's not even going to matter until Iran blows up, right? And then Donald Trump went on state regime media, which calls itself Fox this weekend. And he even hinted at some of these conversations that are taking place right now where he's like, okay, Iran will blow up because the oil pipelines in Iran will be so filled with pressure, the way mechanical engineering works, it's just going to blow up the country. Well, according to what Donald Trump was saying on Sunday, all of Iran would have been blown up today, and obviously that didn't happen. So now American intelligence officials and our military generals and admirals are leaking to the press that Donald Trump's plan to keep a naval blockade in place for months potentially and do nothing and just see what happens, that's the worst plan possible. Of all of the worst plans, Trump may have picked the worst one. So now, ironically, Axios, which has been propaganda stenographer media for Donald Trump, just literally posting whatever the hell he wants to manipulate the markets, they're now getting information from sources inside the Trump regime trying to leak Donald Trump's dangerous and catastrophic plans. U.S. officials are now telling Axios they're concerned about getting drawn in to a frozen conflict of no war and no deal. In this scenario, the U.S. keeps its forces in the region for many more months. Hormuz would stay closed and the U.S. blockade would remain. I guess kind of like the way Donald Trump handled COVID. Just pretend it's not real, like a miracle, it's all going to go away, and then let someone else in the future deal with the catastrophe. Because you see what Donald Trump does? Donald Trump figures out during the most catastrophic of moments, when people are suffering the maximum amount, that's when Donald Trump, the two-bit vile piece of trash con artist that he's been, the scumbag that he's been his entire life, he feasts on people's suffering. And that's where he blames people. Who's going to be his Dr. Fauci? Who's going to be the person that he can put it all on? Why don't the arsonist put it on the firefighter? Who's going to be his former President Biden? Who's going to be his Jerome Powell? Who's going to be his James Comey, right? This is what this guy does. And he finds people suffering and then he waits and waits. It wasn't me. And then he blames other people. Now, that leak to Axios followed the Wall Street Journal reporting that Trump's just going to stick with the blockade, which is, in effect, a decision to not make a decision at all. Trump will wait. We'll see if the blockade works. Not like the people here are suffering or anything. And then Donald Trump feels, look, Iran's facing economic pressure, so maybe they break. You think you're going to break Iran when after you engaged in the invasion with Netanyahu in Israel, they didn't break then, and Aragchi's hanging out with Putin right now, or he was hanging out with Putin this week while you were there, doing whatever the weird thing you were doing with King Charles, while you were hiding the bruises on your hand with the makeup, while you were grabbing Melania's backside on camera, while you were there just, behaving like a freaking monster and a weirdo. Putin was meeting with Foreign Minister Aragchi of Iran, coming up with strategic plans, and Iran, what they've been utilizing this time for is digging out all of the weapons that may have been buried under some rubble based on the strikes by the U.S. and Israel. Iran right now is rapidly manufacturing the Shahed FPV drones and ballistic missiles. They probably by now have replenished all of the missiles that they've lost because their entire economy right now is working to prepare for a potential further escalation of this war. And they have a firm grip on the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, Donald, remember Prime Minister Takaishi from Japan and her visit to America and your visit to Japan where she acted all nice to you? Remember, she even helped you walk straight because you can't walk in a freaking straight line anymore? Remember that when you visited Japan? Well, guess what? Japan just cut a bilateral deal with Iran that Foreign Minister Aragchi was basically bragging about by making social media posts to point out when Japan broke a British blockade in the about 60, 70 years ago or so, and how now Japan has cut a deal with Iran to be able to take Gulf oil, go through the Strait of Hormuz, and see you later, alligator. Japan's bringing their oil to Japan right now, and they're desperate for oil. But Japan cut a deal directly with Iran. And so, the Wall Street Journal reporting that Trump has instructed aides to prepare for an extended blockade of Iran, U.S. officials said, targeting the regime's coffers in a high-risk bid to compel a nuclear capitulation Tehran has long refused. In recent meetings, Trump opted to continue squeezing Iran's economy and oil exports by preventing shipping to and from its ports. He assessed that his other options, resume bombing or walk away from the conflict, carried more risk. Continuing the blockade, Alex Ward writes, also prolongs a conflict that has driven up gas prices, hurts Trump's poll numbers, and further darkened Republicans' prospects in the midterm elections. Trump's decision represents a new phase of sorts of the war and highlights the fact that the president, who always seeks a quick and salable victory, is devoid of a silver bullet. White House spokesman Anna Kelly said the U.S. has met Operation Epic Fury's military objectives and that thanks to the successful blockade of Iranian ports, the United States has maximum leverage over the regime. Oh, I see that maximum leverage every day because it seems like Iran's just tapping out. I'm being sarcastic, of course. As one commentator notes, at last, Donald Trump found a way to save face, keep the Iran conflict active, avoid real action, and call the blockade a strategy. The rest of the world suffers. Billions of lives are affected by this nonsense, but it makes Donald Trump feel good. He feels tough with the blockade, like, look, I'm doing something, and then he's going to go and blame someone. Folks, this is what Donald Trump has done his entire damn life. Do you want to know how he bankrupted like most of the things that he touched? Because he is weak and pathetic and a loser and he's dumb. But what he is able to do is he's able to brainwash people. He's one of the greatest, if not the greatest con man in the history of mankind. He's able to tap into people's reptilian brains of sorts. And he's able to say, during people's crises that he's going to fix it when he's the one who creates the catastrophes. But over and over and over again, when he gets caught, he goes bankrupt, and sadly, this is what he's done to the United States right now. You want to take a look at what's going on in Iran right now? Let me show you, bring in the B-roll, guys, of Tehran Square, where tens of thousands of people, potentially over 100,000 people every night now are out there basically partying and celebrating. They've got music. You want to see what it actually sounds like? Let's not even do the B-roll. Let me show you what Tehran Square looks like on every evening right now. Here, play this clip. And I'll show you another clip right here of just the music that they've got going. They are celebrating because in their mind, the United States has lost this war. Iran has destroyed the most powerful country in the most ever in the history of the world, has brought the United States down to its knees because Donald Trump is there frozen like a weak and pathetic ghoul where he doesn't know how to negotiate, and he's not going to further escalate because he saw what happens there. And that's where we're in no man's land, the Trump loop of chaos. That's where we are. I showed you the clip, right? So what else is Donald Trump doing right now? As he's going ballistic at night, as the generals are leaking this information, Donald Trump, he goes to his safe spaces, attack Jimmy Kimmel, attack Rosie O'Donnell, force the Justice Department to indict James Comey for posting a social media thing a year ago with seashells. We're doing social media seashell indictments because Donald Trump's feelings were hurt. And now he's having the FCC go after ABC because Jimmy Kimmel told a joke. So just think about it. These MAGA people, these MAGA losers who were all like, we don't like big tech censorship. How dare Twitter ban somebody on their private platform for spreading lies about vaccines or supporting insurrections against democracy? How dare Twitter do that? Now the government filed another criminal indictment against James Comey, this one for posting seashell photographs that say 8647 on Instagram. When 86 means to get rid of, it's, as you know, it's restaurant slang or bar slang. It doesn't mean to harm somebody. It usually means get rid of him, get him out of here, right? It's a common term. And then the Trump regime has escalated its conflict with ABC by ordering early license reviews for the network's TV stations, a rare move led by FCC Chairman Brendan Carr. The action comes as Donald Trump pressures ABC to fire Jimmy Kimmel over controversial jokes. These MAGAs are the biggest. Oh my God, the jokes are so controversial, Donald. And he goes on to say, the FCC says the review relates to an investigation into Disney's diversity programs, but critics argue it's retaliation for airing Kimmel's show. These guys are just so utterly pathetic right now. No wonder Donald Trump's poll numbers are absolutely crashing. I'll do a whole other video on this, but the latest Reuters Ipsos poll has Donald Trump's approval at 34%. Donald Trump's approval on the cost of living, 22%. His overall approval, 34%. His approval on cost of living, 22%. But folks, Donald Trump, dude's focused on all of the important things right now. Putting his face on new U.S. passports. Yeah, what Donald Trump's focused on right now is new U.S. passports that are made. Donald Trump and the State Department would like to have Trump's face on all of your passports. Already, Donald Trump's face is all over the National Park Pass right now. It's a big photo of him and George Washington. So if you get your National Park Pass, you have to get this ridiculous photo. Coming soon, potentially, to your passport. When you just want to get a passport, it's going to have Donald Trump's face on it. Golden ballrooms, triumphal arches. He puts his photo all over buildings in D.C. And yes, the Trump regime right now is focused on an April 30 deadline to Zambia. The Trump regime is playing hardball with Zambia. Hey, Zambia, give us access to your rare earth minerals or else. Or else what? If we don't give you our rare earth minerals and your mining terms, what are you going to do, Trump regime? You will lose HIV medication. We will make sure that you all spread HIV and AIDS if you don't give us a mining deal. What? 1.3 million Zambians rely on HIV treatment funded through PEPFAR, important program. So you're saying that if we don't give you our copper, lithium, and cobalt reserves, you're going to not help the 1.3 million Zambians who rely on this HIV treatment that the prior program was helping? Yes, that's what we're going to do at America. America. I mean, what a sick regime. What a despicable group of people, right? The worst. Trash. Humans. Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Please hit subscribe.
New Midas merch. Head to store.MeidasTouch.com today and get yourself the best pro-democracy gear and show your support. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.